A figure surrounded by raging flames was frantically attacking space in the darkness. It was Etion. Damn it! Etion tried his best, but he still couldn't break through this dark space and find Hantua, who was deep in the endless abyss. It had been a long time since Etion felt so helpless. Hantua had been protecting him ever since he obtained the primordial chaos Dao fruit. He had finally awakened as a chaotic fiend celestial and inherited the power of the Khanate Great Dao, but he still couldn't save Hantua. This aggrieved feeling almost made Etion go mad. Why? Why am I so weak? I, who have no parents, can't even save my only brother. What's the difference between me and an ant? Etion roared angrily. He could only hold these words in his heart. A laugh sounded at this moment. Give up, young chaotic fiend celestial. It's impossible for you to break through the endless abyss. The difference in cultivation level between us is too great. This voice was filled with disdain and mockery. Etion stopped and turned around. Come out! Suppress me or kill me if you have the guts. Laughter followed. Why should I kill you? I don't want to kill him either. I want the two of you to submit to me. You can obtain potential that surpasses the chaotic fiend celestials. A white figure suddenly appeared in front of him and pointed at his forehead as soon as he finished speaking. In an instant, the flames on his body dispersed and revealed his true body. Etion's eyes widened in disbelief. The white figure was a humanoid and had a human figure. Its surface was pale like jade and wrinkle-free. It wore a stone mask without eyes. Behind the mask was long hair formed by black worms that twisted wantonly. Etion could not move. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Who are you?" The white figure laughed strangely. "You can call me the Devil Ancestor." Devil Ancestor? Etion frowned and asked, "The Devil Ancestor of the Heavenly Tao?" That's only one of my Dharma idols. The 3,000 worlds of the chaos all have my Dharma idols. I helped countless worlds form rules. I'm the oldest chaotic fiend celestial. The chaos was still in its original state when I was born. There was no world or living beings. It was gray, and I felt that that was the most beautiful appearance. The Devil Ancestor smiled teasingly. As Etion shivered. What did this fellow mean? Did he want to destroy everything and make the chaos return to its original state? The Devil Ancestor said, "Actually, I think very highly of the two of you. That's why I spent time dealing with you. Submit to me. I will establish a new order and stand above everything. I will be the only god, and you will be second only to me." Etion was silent. The Devil Ancestor spoke patiently. What can you obtain by fighting for the evil Heavenly Emperor? Back then, when the evil Heavenly Emperor was still in the Heavenly Tao, he also asked my Dharma idol for help. He begged me to let the devil race sweep through the mortal world and slaughter all living beings every time they lost their faith in the immortals, giving the immortals a chance to be the saviors. What are you pursuing when you fight for such a person? Etion was moved. He didn't expect the evil Heavenly Emperor to have done this before. I want the chaos to restart, just like how the Heavenly Tao restarted. Only by cleansing can we be reborn. The current Heavenly Tao is close to perfection, but it's still a little short of true peace. It's mainly because your brother's father isn't determined enough and still relies on those sages to establish order. The Devil Ancestor's tone became regretful when he mentioned Hanju. Etion gritted his teeth. Won't we help you kill the people around us if we follow you? The restarting of the chaos meant slaughtering all living beings in the chaos. The Devil Ancestor smiled. Since you're on our side, I'll definitely take care of you. I'll protect the people you care about. You have no room to refuse. Either submit to me or die. Etion was furious, but he was helpless. He asked, "Why did you choose us?" Etienne was silent. The devil ancestor smiled. "There's not much time left. My patience is about to run out." Etienne took a deep breath and said, "All right, as long as you're willing to let my brother go." The devil ancestor's mask began to twist as a strange smile appeared on the stone surface. "You won't regret it." Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. He had been in seclusion for 80,000 years. Indeed, after reaching 1,000,000 years old, the choice reward would not be triggered every 100,000 years. It would probably only be triggered once every 1,000,000 years. Fortunately, Hanju was already strong enough and didn't have much desire for the system reward. He wanted to continue cultivating. However, he had been feeling uneasy recently. He pinched his fingers to deduce, but he couldn't figure out where this feeling came from. Strange. He was a great Tao sage. Everything was in his control unless it involved an existence stronger than him. Hanju checked the emails. Perhaps he could find an answer from his friends. "Your good friend Tao Sovereign has obtained a supreme treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by your son Han Tua and was severely injured. Your good friend Etienne was attacked by an immortal god, X78920. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by your son Han Tua and was severely injured. Your good friend Qin Ling was attacked by your good friend Etienne and was severely injured. Your good friend Taoist Destiny discussed the Tao with a mysterious mighty figure. Your disciple Ji Xianshan accidentally entered the chaotic mystic realm. His providence has increased." What was going on with Han Tua and Etienne? Hanju checked their portraits and discovered that their cultivation levels had already reached the late-stage primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. So fast! Hanju narrowed his eyes. A word appeared in their providence information. Inheritor of the devil ancestor. Devil ancestor? Hanju immediately used the derivation function. "I want to know who the devil ancestor who gave Han Tua and Etienne the inheritance is. 400 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue." Devil ancestor Lu Yuan, mid-stage great Tao supreme realm, Tao ancestors devil heart, myriad devil ancestor, one of the ancient chaotic fiend celestials. Hanju frowned. "Great Tao supreme realm. I want to know my chances of winning against the devil ancestor Lu Yuan. 400 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue." "You have a 60% chance of killing the devil ancestor Lu Yuan." Hanju frowned. "It's too dangerous." He couldn't attack. He could only use the Book of Misfortune. "Let's understand the situation first." Hanju frowned and thought. What if Lu Yuan was Han Tuo's master? Wouldn't he curse his own ally to death? Hanju sent a dream to Han Tua next. The dream was a beautiful place with mountains and rivers. Hanju discovered that Han Tua had changed. Apart from his body being stronger, his face was a little weathered. His white hair was tied behind his head by a blood tendon, and only 2 thin strands of hair were left on his forehead. Hanju wanted to ask him why he wanted to severely injure the evil heavenly emperor, but his heart softened when he saw him like this. He must have had a reason. Han Tua suddenly opened his eyes. After seeing Hanju, he was stunned and hurriedly stood up to bow. However, he was no longer as excited as before and looked very calm. He had indeed grown up. Hanju asked, "How have you been?" Han Tua hesitated for a moment but still told him the truth. From being trapped in the endless abyss to being subdued by the devil ancestor Lu Yuan and recently following him to explore the chaos. They were trying to help the devil ancestor recover his main body. Hanju narrowed his eyes and asked, "This devil ancestor has yet to recover his main body?" Hantua nodded. His body was destroyed by Pango, and his soul was suppressed in the ancient desolate by the Tao ancestor for countless years. He needs time to recover. He hesitated, his eyes worried. Hanju asked, "What are you trying to say?" Hantua took a deep breath and said, "I injured the evil heavenly emperor not because I attacked him. It's just that he and Jofen want to save me and Etian. I've let his majesty down, but I want to try something with the devil ancestor. I hope that father can forgive me." He knew Hanju's relationship with the evil heavenly emperor, so he was worried. Hanju asked, "Why do you want to follow the devil ancestor?" Hantua looked up at him with a firm gaze and said, "I want to find the meaning of my existence. I've been following his majesty and fighting and killing countless people. Although the heavenly court has been strengthening, I can't find my own meaning. I might be able to find it if I follow the devil ancestor." Hanju was speechless. Looking for meaning? Did he have nothing better to do? Survival was the greatest meaning. However, Hanju couldn't criticize him directly when he saw Hantuo's gaze. Everyone had their own ambitions. Hanju's previous path was not understood by others. The people around him thought that he was timid and afraid of trouble. He used his strength to prove that he was right. At least, Hanju was very firm at the beginning. Hantuo had experienced all sorts of things in life. He had experienced all the emotions and desires. He had also experienced the extreme sense of achievement and the sense of failure that almost caused him to collapse. At his realm, it was already very difficult for him to encounter enemies. It was indeed easy to be confused. Hanju asked, "Then, can you tell me why the devil ancestor wants you?" Hantuo did not hide anything. Hanju didn't panic knowing that the devil ancestor actually wanted to restart the chaos. Instead, he was a little teasing. Life, the fiend celestial race, the devil ancestor, the great Tao divine spirit, and so on. More and more major factions began to integrate and appear. To Hanju, it was a good thing. The more chaotic it was, the harder it was for his identity to be exposed. The fact that Hantuo could tell him the devil ancestor's intentions meant that the devil ancestor did not use any method to brainwash him. Otherwise, he would definitely keep it a secret. Have you really thought about it? This path will be very difficult and you will encounter many troubles, Hanju asked. Hantuo said with a firm expression, "At first, I refused. Later, the devil ancestor let me see many things, so I decided to follow him. If the devil ancestor really has cultivation that can overturn everything, I will ask him to protect the hidden sect. If the devil ancestor fails, I will sever my relationship with you and not cause trouble." This was indeed an investment. No matter what, Hanju didn't lose out. Hantuo had lost too many people in his life. Hanju was the only one left, and he was too powerful. He had no ability to repay Hanju at all. Instead of that, it was better to follow the devil ancestor and fight for a chance of survival for him. Hanju was silent. He could sense Hantuo's true feelings. "This kid is underestimating me." Hantuo lowered his head slightly and said softly, "Although you've been protecting me, you actually don't have any expectations of me." Hanju said, "Why would I save you if I have no expectations?" Hantuo said, "It's only because I'm your son. The expectations I said have nothing to do with kinship. Just like you protected so many people and always cultivated diligently. Isn't that just not trusting anyone but yourself? In your heart, you never expect others to save you. You only believe that you can protect yourself." Hanju fell silent again. It had to be said that this kid had seen through him. Hanju indeed didn't expect much from anyone. He nurtured the fiend celestial army only hoping for it to help him reduce trouble in the future. He never expected the hidden sect and the fiend celestial army to save him when he was in danger. It was because he would never let himself fall into a desperate situation. This was also the reason why he was still in seclusion despite being so powerful. Let me try, father. Han Tuo stared at him and said word by word. The two of them indeed looked like father and son, but Han Tuo looked to be the older one. Hanju said, "Alright, I respect your choice. However, I won't show mercy to the devil ancestor if he dares to threaten me. I hope that you won't plead for mercy for him." Han Tuo said helplessly, "Why would I plead for him? I'm only doing it for myself. I don't have a good impression of him." Hanju removed the dream. "Summon me at any time if you encounter a death situation." On a barren land, the bright starry sky looked up. Han Tuo sat on the hill and opened his eyes. He was both touched and bitter. "You still think that I can't?" A cold wind blew past, and his white hair fluttered. Etienne suddenly walked over. Like Han Tuo, his image had changed. He was dressed in sinister black armor and his black hair reached his heels. His face was wild, and even if he didn't speak, it made people feel that he was arrogant. "What are you thinking? The devil ancestor is probably about to finish. That fellow is really disgusting. He ate the corpse of an ancient chaotic fiend celestial Ra," said Etienne as he sat beside him. Han Tuo asked, "Etienne, have you thought about why you cultivate? What is the purpose of your life?" Han Tuo said faintly, "The great sage equaling heaven became the victorious fighting Buddha in the end." Etienne smiled confidently. "That's because he failed. If he succeeded, even Tathagata would have to kneel in front of him." Han Tuo looked at his smile and was lost in thought. Etienne seemed to be always so optimistic and heartless. Etienne sensed his emotions and patted his shoulder. He smiled and said, "Don't think about this all day. You still have a father to rely on. Do you know that you won't die no matter what, so you want to find trouble for yourself?" Han Tuo scolded him jokingly. "What do you know? I'm thinking. Thinking. Do you understand?" Etienne grinned. "You won't even have the energy to think when I surpass you and step on you. You can only think about how to surpass me." Any existence with intelligence would always encounter a moment of confusion. Hanju knew this very well. He was often confused. For example, now, he only had a 60% chance of winning against the devil ancestor. Most importantly, the other party was still recovering his strength. This was not good. Hanju had no choice but to take out the Book of Misfortune and the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and start to fuse them. Then, he sent a dream to the evil Heavenly Emperor. The dream was still the forest outside the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. He was the first to speak. "Sorry, I didn't protect your son well." Hanju smiled. "I should be the one apologizing to you. This kid is not in his right mind. He hurt you. Don't blame him." The evil Heavenly Emperor shook his head. "How can I blame him? He has already contributed enough to the Heavenly Court. I won't stop him if he really wants to leave. Besides, the one who injured me was actually not him. It was mainly the power of the devil ancestor who injured me through his body. He was also very panicked and blamed himself. I can tell." The evil Heavenly Emperor sighed as he mentioned this. Actually, he had already experienced such a situation. Humans strive for greater heights. He had sent many geniuses to sage sects, so he was not affected. Hanju asked, "Why didn't you summon me back then?" The evil Heavenly Emperor replied, "This devil ancestor is not simple. He's ancient. He once followed Pango for an era and later became the Tao ancestor's mental demon. Although he was severed by the Tao ancestor, he has already established an inseparable connection with him. He won't die if the Tao ancestor doesn't die. I don't want you to provoke such an existence. Hanju frowned. So exaggerated? The Tao ancestor was one of the final bosses. He was not easy to deal with. Although his tone was a little regretful, it was also filled with anticipation. Oh? You seem to have a high opinion of the devil ancestor? Hanju asked. Before Pango created the world, not all the 3,000 fiend celestials in the chaos liked to fight. This devil ancestor was one of the existences who hated fighting, but he had no choice. Hanju remained silent. It sounded like another sad story. Hanju chuckled. Really? He suddenly understood why Han Tuo was aggrieved. On one side was the evil heavenly emperor who was cheering him on, and on the other was a father like him. He was looking forward to Hanju's mysterious youngest son. He could actually resonate with Han Tuo's bloodline. At least, his talent was above Han Tuo's. Is that so? Unfortunately, I think his potential is definitely good. It's just that he hasn't been discovered. I'll send him to you to help you expand your territory if I have the chance in the future. You sound like I'm taking advantage of you. No, no! The Heavenly Emperor is impartial. How can I dare to think that? Brat, have you forgotten how respectful you used to be in front of me? Are you not giving me face now? How can this be? The two of them began to bicker, the smiles on their faces not disappearing. Hanju opened his eyes. He gave up the thought of settling scores with the devil ancestor after chatting with the evil heavenly emperor. He would let him go for a while. Hanju was about to close his eyes and cultivate when he suddenly felt a strange fluctuation. He suddenly glanced over. His gaze passed through the buildings and landed on the Fusong tree. He saw the space around the Fusong tree twisting violently. Hanju immediately came to the Fusong tree. He was about to take action when the Fusong tree suddenly disappeared. The tens of thousands of feet tall Fusong tree suddenly disappeared, causing a huge visual impact. The Dao field guards on the triada, Shao Air, and the Black Hell Chicken landed one after another, all looking stunned. At the same time, the uneasiness in Hanju's heart disappeared. He was enlightened. It turned out that his uneasiness was not because of Han Tuo, but because of the Fusong tree. He used the simulation trial to check his surroundings and did not discover any mysterious enemy. He didn't dare to pursue rashly. How terrifying would it be to pass through the Dao field array formation if a mysterious mighty figure really attacked? Hanju disappeared after saying, "Continue cultivating. Pretend that nothing happened." He returned to the Taoist temple and began to deduce. Soon, he caught sight of the Fusong tree. After all, the Fusong tree was far weaker than him. Hanju didn't even need to use the derivation function and could deduce it himself. However, Hanju didn't expect the Fusong tree to be so far from the heavenly Tao. It was even further than the Grand Primordium domain. The Fusong tree appeared in a dark space filled with rolling chaotic chi. There were no living beings around. Its branches began to tremble. The leaves kept leaving and turned into dust, forming little stars that lit up the surroundings. Hanju didn't deduce any other existence. Could it be that the Fusong tree wanted to leave? But how could it be so capable? Who helped the Fusong tree escape the 100-peak immortal river? 1 quadrillion years will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Tao Creator? Continue. Hanju's heart sank. Space origin. The Fusong tree wants to transform strongly and has touched the space origin. Under its will, the Fusong tree came to the primordial zone of chaos and is preparing to transform into all things. It wants to use the great Tao merit to transform. The Fusang tree had indeed mentioned that it wanted to transform a long time ago, but it was a primordial divine tree and was restricted by special rules. Even Hanju, the great Tao sage, could not help but forcefully transform. He had suggested that the Fusang tree give up its body, but it did not immediately agree. Hanju wanted to ask the Fusang tree, but he didn't know what to ask. The current Tao field no longer needed the Fusang tree to provide spirit qi. Since he couldn't help it, why not let it pursue its own path? Hanju retracted his gaze and sighed. He was not sad. Han Tuo, Fusang tree, Tao sovereign, Zhou Fan, and the others began to take charge and had their own paths to pursue. They were no longer weaklings who needed his protection. In that case, I have expectations for you. I look forward to whether you can surprise me in the future. However, it's impossible for you to surpass me, Hanju muttered to himself with a firm gaze. They thought that the Fusang tree's disappearance was his doing. Hanju entered his cultivation state. Years passed. Time passed quickly. 50,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju opened his eyes and slowly stood up. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du sent a voice transmission to him several hundred years ago, telling him to go to the Universal Hall after his seclusion ended. Hanju jumped into the Universal Hall. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du opened his eyes and sent a voice transmission to the other sages. Sitting beside him, Hanju chuckled and said, "Your cultivation level has increased quite a bit recently." Heavenly Venerate Xian Du smiled. "It's all thanks to the providence of the Heavenly Tao. Not only me, but the other sages have also improved." Before the Heavenly Tao restarted, the cultivation levels of the sages might not increase even after tens of billions of years. Soon, the other sages arrived. There was another new sage in the Heavenly Tao. He was the famous Divine Might Buddha, hailing from the Buddhist sect. The Buddhist sect already had 3 sages. Choshilai began to exert his strength. The other sages had nothing to say about this. The Divine Might Buddha was indeed powerful. Be it cultivation, providence, or reputation, he was unique in the current immortal world. It was really unreasonable that even he couldn't attain the Tao. Hanju had heard of the Divine Might Buddha before, but this was the first time he saw him in person. The Divine Might Buddha was actually thought to be the disciple of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage ever since the name of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage spread. The Divine Might Buddha did not deny it. He had already learned of the Buddhist sect's stance from Choshilai. After all the sages sat down, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, "Let's talk about the previous alliance between the 100 worlds. We have already reached a preliminary agreement. In the future, we will advance and retreat together. The Heavenly Tao is one of the main alliance masters." Hanju was not interested in socializing, so he checked the emails. Get latest Oval Chpters on NV, E, LBJ and CM. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren spread the Buddhist teachings, and the great Tao of Buddha strengthened. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by your good friend Di Jiang and was severely injured. Your good friend Di Juan discussed the Tao with a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased. Your good friend Qin Ling has fused with the providence of the Heavenly Tao and learned a Heavenly Tao mystical power. Your good friend Heavenly Calamity Emperor was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your son Han Tuo received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure and learned a great Tao mystical power. Your good friend Yi Tian received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure and learned a great Tao mystical power. His circle of friends became more and more interesting. Amazing! This also showed that the situation in the chaos was changing. Hanju suddenly frowned. Would the great Tao immeasurable calamity be brought forward? It was not to the extent that as long as the primordial fiend celestial did not appear, the great Tao immeasurable calamity would not begin. At most, there would be a few ordinary calamities in advance. Hanju saw that Han Tuo and Yi Tian had both learned a great Dao mystical power. It seemed that the devil ancestor Lu Yuan was still something and taught the two juniors seriously. He continued reading the emails. The new sages were filled with reverence for him. As expected of a mighty figure who was on par with the divine might heavenly sage. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du continued, recently, two powerful factions have appeared in the chaos. One is the devil ancestor who escaped from the ancient desolate. He's wantonly recruiting troops and buying horses. His targets are mainly young geniuses. We need to be wary of this matter. The second is the Eternal Divine Clan. The Eternal Divine Clan is made up of eternal deities. The so-called eternal deities are a type of transcendent deity. Although they don't grasp the rules like the great Tao deities, they are still extremely powerful. As the name implies, eternal deities are eternal existences. Every eternal deity is an existence that can't be killed. The sages glanced at Emperor Shao when the devil ancestor was mentioned. Emperor Shao was expressionless as if the matter had nothing to do with him. Hanju was interested in the eternal deities. He remembered that Dijuan was an eternal deity. Could it be that Dijuan could not be killed? How do I kill an eternal deity? Hanju asked in his mind. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Kill his true body and the eternal Tao fruit. Eternal Tao fruit. The eternal Tao fruit represented the eternal rule? How were rules different from the great Tao? Hanju didn't continue to use the derivation function. He could seek answers to these questions in his cultivation. There was no need to waste his lifespan. The sages began to discuss how to prevent the approach of the two powerful factions. The Eternal Divine Clan could be ignored for the time being as they were far from the heavenly Tao. But the devil ancestor was different. There were countless devils and fiendish cultivators in the heavenly Tao. Emperor Shao said, I will unite the demonic path and not give the devil ancestor a chance. Qiu Shilai said in a strange tone, I wonder if fellow Taoist Shao is still related to the devil ancestor? Emperor Shao snorted. I would have left long ago during the heavenly Tao calamity if so. Why would I guard the heavenly Tao so bitterly? The other sages felt that it made sense. Almost all the older generation of sages had severed ties with their backgrounds. Although they later became friends again, they no longer followed the orders of those great Tao sages. They belong to the heavenly Tao now. Continue to follow the cultivation spirit of fighting for the heavenly Tao. This is the best way. Some geniuses will definitely be poached. What we can guarantee is that most of the geniuses care about the heavenly Tao, Heavenly Venerate Wu Fa said. The other sages spoke. Hanju didn't interrupt. He was not interested in these things. He couldn't be bothered to interfere and believed that the sages could handle it well. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du had especially called him. There was probably something important later. Just as the sages were discussing, an extremely loud voice came from outside the hall. I am a descendant of Pangu, Xiaojizuan. Today, I am here to challenge a sage. The sages had strange expressions. Hanju was amused. There was such a good show? Heavenly Venerate Xiandu asked, whose disciple is Xiaojizuan? Surpass Pangu? The sages revealed looks of disdain. Su Dudao said in a strange tone, we have to punish him if we don't kill him. Otherwise, where will our dignity as sages go? Today, there's Xiaojizuan, and in the future, there's Chenjizuan, Kongjizuan, and Tangjizuan. Isn't this absurd? That's right. He has to be punished for challenging the sage's authority. Let him reincarnate and cultivate again? Too ruthless. It's not easy to nurture a prodigy. The heavenly Tao still lacks prodigies? The key is whether we should attack, Won't we be bullying the weak? The sages began to discuss xiaojizuan. Speechless, Hanju said, "Don't lose the big picture for a small matter. Let's see what he does next before making a decision." The sages smiled awkwardly and continued discussing the previous matter. At the same time, outside the hall, a white-robed man stood in the void. He had a handsome face and an imposing appearance. His every move emitted the aura of an expert. Xiaojizuan, the #1 prodigy of the Divine Palace. He believed that he was also the #1 prodigy of the Heavenly Tao. He suddenly wanted to challenge a sage. However, in the vast chaos, it was extremely difficult to encounter a sage. He could only return to the Heavenly Tao and at least know that the sages were outside the 33rd heaven. "Why are you ignoring me?" Xiaojizuan frowned. He also knew that his cultivation was a little low, but he really couldn't restrain his desire to challenge a sage. He was in a dilemma. Disciples were cultivating in the various sage Tao fields outside the 33rd heaven. They were all experts in the immortal world. Wouldn't he be embarrassing himself and make all living beings laugh at him if he left like this? Wouldn't he offend the sages if he barged into the sage Tao field? He was no match for a group of sages no matter how powerful he was. Xiaojizuan felt some regret. He could only force himself to continue waiting. Several hours later, the sages discussed how to consolidate the loyalty of the geniuses to the Heavenly Tao. Unlike before the Heavenly Tao restarted, the current calamity was mainly to let all living beings vent. Although it was peaceful now, many cultivators used the rules of peace to bully the weak. It was very difficult to achieve true peace. Hanju asked, "What form will the calamity take?" Heavenly Venerate Xiandu said, "I've thought about it repeatedly. It's not a good thing to directly start a war. Then, the rules of the calamity should die with the old Heavenly Tao. I plan to focus on the human race, the Divine Palace, and the Buddhist sect and let Qinling reincarnate as a mortal. Because he suffered when he was young, his clansmen were accidentally killed by the Buddhist disciples when they were subduing demons. With such a background, he joined the Divine Palace by chance and became a prodigy. In order to take revenge, Qinling wants to overthrow the Buddhist sect. During this period, the other sage sects and races can join. They can either support Qinling or the Buddhist sect. The Buddhist sect also wants to maintain the rules of peace." This script was not bad. Hanju was satisfied. It was equivalent to giving Qinling fame. The Buddhist sect might be despised in the early stages, but it would be cleansed again and even obtain the participation of a large number of disciples after the calamity ended. The source of this content NOVL by N. Qinling was Hanju's most precious grand disciple. Hanju naturally couldn't let him suffer. Hanju said Qinling's body was left in the hidden sect and his soul was reincarnated. When taking revenge, he couldn't defeat the mighty figure of the Buddhist sect and felt despair. Later, Li Xianao informed him of his background in his previous life, so he went to the 100-peak Immortal River and knelt down to seek strength. I then returned his body and let him escape the suffering of the mortal world. At the same time, he recovered his strength and ended the calamity. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu praised, "Good idea." The other sages of the older generation agreed. Chaoshilai had no objections. It looked like the Buddhist sect was at a disadvantage, but it would benefit the most as long as the calamity went smoothly. The main philosophy of the Buddhist sect was to ensure peace for all living beings. The new sages had strange expressions. Was this the truth of the calamity? The new sage recalled the legendary calamities and couldn't help but be terrified. Choshilai smiled. "I agree." Zhang Guxing hesitated. This was courting death. However, he was afraid of being played by the other sages. Zhang Guxing looked at Hanju with a pleading gaze. Hanju said, I think it's feasible. In the next life, Xiaojizuan will be Qinling's best brother in the Divine Palace. The two of them will fight against the Buddhist sect together and finally return to the Divine Palace. What he meant was that he wanted to protect Xiaojizuan. Sages, don't play tricks. Zhang Guxing heaved a sigh of relief and looked at him gratefully. The other sages praised Hanju for his benevolence. Jin Shin sighed secretly. Authority was so disgusting. Xiaojizuan also involved Pan Xian. After all, he was a descendant of Pangu. Unfortunately, Pan Xian was not in the heavenly Tao right now. However, with Hanju's agreement, there was no problem. The calamity could already be prepared. The matter of the calamity was settled. Hanju disappeared. The moment he left, the sages relaxed and began to laugh. They were not as serious as before. Li Taigu said meaningfully, Zhang Guxing, you're still too lax with the Divine Palace. Even if Xiaojizuan can escape today, can Senior Han save the second Xiaojizuan? Zhang Guxing sighed. We should indeed discipline him strictly. He stood up and prepared to teach Xiaojizuan a lesson. He had lost all his face today. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju sent a dream to Zhou Fan and told him about the calamity. He then asked him to tell Qinling to hurry up and return. Qinling would suffer in the calamity, but after the calamity ended, he would obtain a huge amount of heavenly Tao providence that could increase his cultivation. At the same time, his name would be passed down in the heavenly Tao for 10,000 years. He would receive countless benefits if he constantly absorbed faith. Is this a sage? Interesting, Hanju muttered to himself as he opened his eyes. It had to be said that the feeling of deciding the fate of all living beings was wonderful. No wonder the sages were obsessed. Hanju was not a good person, but he was not a bad person either. In his opinion, such a calamity was good. It was better than accumulating conflicts, causing chaos to break out sooner or later. He had to sacrifice something if he wanted the entire heavenly Tao to maintain a good development. Hanju began to observe the heavenly Tao and took in the various forms of life. The number of ghosts in the immortal world and the myriad worlds was indeed increasing. Although it couldn't affect the heavenly Tao for the time being, the speed was indeed not optimistic. No wonder Heavenly Venerate Xian Du wanted to prepare for the calamity.